So blending is the skill that changes everything. If, for example, you have the letter S, which makes the sound S, and you have the letter A making the sound A, and the letter T making the sound T, a child could very confidently potentially recognize each of those sounds, but could simply just keep saying them, and then there's an A, and then there's a T, and they never arrive at the word. So we use robot arms, and there are so many other ways possible as well. There are lots of online tools where you can put them into machines, but we make the machine ourselves. So we give children robot arms. Each sound has a robot arm, and then we blend them together and send them on the conveyor belt. So the letters come closer and closer. So we would say sat, 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 and they can stick them together and then they finally hear the word. Children get stuck if you haven't said the letter S with the S sound. If you've said sir, that doesn't make the word sat, that makes sir, and so it gets in the way of this blending process, which is a really common mistake. The other thing is when you are blending, if a parent doesn't recognize which letters pairs a child has learnt make a single sound. So if as a parent you haven't yet noticed that an A and an I make the A sound when they're together, and you're helping your child with the word chair, then you might say k, I, and of course that doesn't say chair. But once we've got the ch, air sound, then we can build that word together. So how to model a blending correctly? I'm going to share with you one of our books. This is one that we really enjoy with our younger readers. It's available in our Active Learn. And I'm just going to show you, before I do the blending, a word on this page that we would call a common exception word. So these words are learnt by rote. They are memorized because at the early phases of phonics, where words like was are going to be commonly occurring in books because they are essential, a child hasn't yet learned that an A can make an O sound. So later on in phase 5 and 6 of phonics, this would be a decodable word. At some point in time, your child will have the tools to recognize that A saying O in any future word that they come across. But was occurs right from the beginning. We can't really get through a sentence or a book without it. So it is taught as a common exception or tricky word. So I've just highlighted it there in red just so you can see which words could be blended and which words couldn't. At a very, very early stage, any child could read this word here. So a child would know that the letter P says as its pure sound, and an I would make the sound I as a pure sound. And then, of course, we'd repeat it. So we would put sound buttons underneath the word, and we would ask the child to build it with us. I, p, I, pip. And the child will very quickly, once it's modelled correctly, if they're using their own robot arms with that active engagement, if they're sending it down the conveyor belt, they very quickly catch on, that is pip, and then they can apply it to the next words. And as I was talking about digraphs, as a later stage, a child would know that this sound makes a k, this sound makes an I, but this is one of the very first digraphs that is taught, along with the sh and the th sound. The sound occurs in many words. So we would put a line underneath this to show as a sound button and dots underneath this. So this indicates a single sound and a joint letter sound. So children would now be able to say k, king. They would arrive at this word. So just so you can see how we would approach a book with an early learner.